Yeah, okay. Just so you get
This thing?
Okay. All right, let's call the meeting to order.
Let's check my agenda.
All right, and let's have roll call.
Okay. Agnes Vernarski,
Present.
Peter Hahn,
Present?
John Kamish,
Here.
Ed Madden,
Present.
Seth Marcus,
Here.
Dana Syvertson.
Here.
I'm Joe Moskell. We're all present and we have a quorum.
Yay.
Okay, approval of minutes of a regular meeting of May 10th.
I motion that we approve the minutes as drafted.
I'll second it.
Great job, Jill, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Motion
Minutes approved. Motion carries. And so we have a visitor today, and we thought it'd be nice to move the agenda forward before we start with anything. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Luke Matthew. And yeah, it's my parents' address. I'm just here on their behalf. They're actually out of the country right now. And so my dad asked me to come by and find out, if there's anything we can do. But they live at 398 Owen Court, Prospect Heights. It's one of two houses that are actually on Hillcrest Lake. I think all the other houses have the street in between their homes and the lake. I guess to go into it, the reason I'm here is because my parents moved into that house in 2008. So they've been there about 10 years now, and my dad's probably noticed a few inches of erosion every year. So the lake is just getting closer and closer to his house, and his land is becoming more wet. And so he asked me, he's always been asking me, hey, is there anything we can do? Should we, put a concrete barrier down? I was like, Dad, we got to go talk to the city. I don't know if there's something we could do. So I came to the city about a couple weeks ago, and then they told me that there was this meeting that you guys have. He told me that this was the place to be, ask these questions, and maybe there are things that we can do to maybe help stop the erosion or slow it down. So that's basically why I'm here.
Okay.
You want to start, or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead. It's complicated.
It is complicated. As we were explaining, in 2016, we created a plan based on, we had the city commission, the Hay and Associates, to do a study of the watershed and look at erosion, look at pollutants, look at all kinds of things in the watershed. And then the city asked us to make a plan
Based on the recommendations.
based on the recommendations of the Hay report to rectify some of these things.
And Hay and Associates are an organization that are full of ecologists and experts
what
in
they
the
do.
field. This is what they do.
All right, so based on that, we came up with a plan, and the plan called for stabilizing the shoreline all the way around the lake and the slough, and doing that with riparian buffers, which are all native plants, very deep rooted. Depending on the type of plant, the roots can be 20 feet deep. And the plan was to stabilize
Part
all
of the
this.
problem is that this is all has been for many years just turf grass, and turf grass has really shallow roots. It's
Right,
just
so
it's like asphalt,
Right.
and just the soil just washes away. And the more, we have a lot of water coming through the system in a heavy rain event,
Right.
like we had recently. Just a lot of water rushing through, and that soil isn't stabilized.
Right.
And so you can stabilize the shore by using like hardscape, like cement, and but that's you try to until it's like last minute kind of thing to avoid those sort of measures. If you can do it naturally, if you can do it by sort of the way that should occur, which is using those native plants, because some of those native plants have root systems that go 15 feet in the ground.
Right.
Sometimes it's so bad that doesn't work. Sometimes the water flows by so quickly that even the toughest plants and the most erosion, it just doesn't work.
And the other side benefit of that is if you do it naturally and you're successful in stabilizing that, then you've created habitat for the wildlife, which if you look at the habitat, the inhabitants that surround the slough as opposed to the lake, there's a real difference there. We've worked over here, and part of the reason we haven't done anything over here, as I was saying earlier, is that pending Metropolitan Water Reclamation District project. And that project called for raising Willow Road 3 feet in height, and then Owen Court, and I believe the original plan was to to do Hillcrest Drive as well. So whether that is still part of the plan, I don't know. Peter, is there anything you can tell us about updating the plan?
I can't hear anything you're saying, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe just ask the question directly.
Is there any update on the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District project yet?
You mean Willow Road?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
There's still compensatory water issues, and then we still are working with MWRD on that.
Okay. So part in restoring this, not only did we create these buffers that absorb the water and help limit the amount of water that goes in it, but it stabilizes that erosion, increases habitat, and then we had also started to plant aquatic plants in there so that the ripple effect of the water is eased by the plants that are actually in the water. So it was a multi-pronged thing, but because they were going to tear this all up, we haven't done anything.
We haven't done anything around the lake. And
Now-
then there's been a little bit of opposition from residents in the area too.
Right.
So
Now, the
that's
city
other-
subsequently has asked us to put together a plan to increase access and public use around the lake and the slope. And part of that plan, we're just starting to craft that right now, goes back and says, okay, let's just go ahead. We're going to proceed and just naturalize this area here, subject to everyone's approval, and create paths that go into and up against the lake.
and plant those native plants that would control the erosion.
Right.
To a
As a
certain
private
extent.
residence, though, with his property on the lake, I mean, there's nothing to stop him from planting his own stuff there, is there?
Absolutely, because those things, they not only filter the water, but they hold
Right.
the water.
Do you know?
There's
Can
so
you
many
show me
things-
on
He's
here
right.
which
He's
one?
right here.
Yeah.
You're right
There's
here.
so
Okay.
many things that each one of
That
us can
corner right
do.
there, yeah.
You know, I mean, honestly, it's a watershed, so it drains a certain area into that slough. So everything along the path, I mean, this actually drains into the slough. Anything that we can do along the path, anything that a homeowner can do, to improve that, to not have so much water, to have the water stay on site, to have it filter in through like deep roots, to have it just not wash off into the waterway, and at such a great speed.
But if he's off of Owen, I know you're on Owen Court as far as your address, but the house facing the lake, if they were to naturalize that strip, say
Yeah.
between Owen Court to
Oh, it would
Willow,
make a big difference.
that could address your issues, and
Right.
then when they
Not
do
losing
get
land.
around to doing the road raising, that would not impact him because it would
Correct.
be
This-
north of him.
over here.
This
This
one
is,
part that's
Yeah.
not touched.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that might be something we could do to
Is that actually
work
is that
with
private
you.
property or is that a city easement though?
Peter?
You know if there's easement?
I believe it's
You're
our
asking for a
property.
question that I'm not going to have an answer to.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
You're-
you
no,
might
you're-
not. We might have. an
This is
answer,
the
but-
property that we're talking about right here. Is that private or is that public?
I'm going to
Is
have
there
to
an
find out
easement?
through our building department to find out where the
Yeah.
easement is on that.
Okay.
Well, do you know from your plat survey?
Based on our surveys, it seems like it's our property. There's a certain amount of our property that, I mean, you can even see it on this picture, right?
Right,
It's
the
a
lake
square,
goes into your
and you can see
property.
the lake rolls right into the property.
That would really help to stabilize the shoreline, to plant that native vegetation, to have a more gradual slope. It would just prevent it from falling off like a foot or two.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we can even walk around and I'll show you instances of like where we've stabilized the shoreline and it's in
This
check.
is an example right
And
here.
then, well, it's in the works. But, and then other areas which is just like turf mowed really low, and you can see every year, literally inches and inches falling off the land, and you can see the turf is like right at the top, and you can see the black soil just falling right off.
Yeah, I mean, we have three large trees that were literally on our property, and now half of those trees are in the water,
Yeah.
and they're just not going to survive.
So then
No,
you know
they're
your
not.
property does go up to the water
Oh
line.
yeah,
then.
it goes into the
All right.
water.
Well, then that's something we can work on now and assist you with.
The other thing you got to
Thanks.
keep in
Yeah.
mind is, so probably the sooner the better, because it's going to take a few years for actually these roots to really get as deep as they need to get
Yeah.
and start doing their thing.
Right.
So to
Doesn't
get
happen overnight.
yeah, it's not going to
Oh,
happen
I would
overnight,
imagine.
but-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we have a program called Grow It, Don't Mow It, and we work with residents to naturalize chunks of their land. Atypically we start off with herbiciding it, and then coming in and planting.
It depends on the site. You have to take a look
right,
at it.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is that the first step would be for us to just come out and take a look at what the condition is.
right.
And what you can do.
We'd certainly be willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's at this point they just want to know what their options are, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If there's something that that could be done, it still looks good, and and can prevent the erosion from happening, then I think they'd be all for it.
Yeah, okay.
If there's something that they need to do on their end, I think maybe they're just looking for permission. If there's not anything else that can be done on your side, at this
Right.
point they're just looking for options.
Absolutely, and answers.
and so-
Well, we wouldn't, as this commission's mission is, we'd be more into naturalizing it rather than putting up a cement wall on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, everybody has a different opinion on that, but
Yeah, I
that's
think
what we're about.
Yeah, he would like to see what it probably would look like.
Okay.
If there were going to be huge grasses that obstructed his view, I don't know if he'd be for that, but I'm sure you guys could provide pictures and things
Yeah.
like that. We could see
Yeah,
what
But
he
there
got
are
areas.
there are other low growing
Right,
native plants that do have deep roots as well.
right.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know. Maybe you guys could take my
Yeah.
info down and
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
just give us a
absolutely.
call and we
Can
can
Tim write this?
maybe one day meet up. And,
Yeah, you want to put it on the back of that? That'd be good.
Can somebody speak to the flow of the water? In other words, where does it go in, and is there anywhere where it goes out, or
Yes.
is this
sure,
terminal?
it comes in on this end. That's where it flooded just recently over Elmhurst Road. And then there's an outlet going into McDonald Creek on this north end.
So it comes out, actually, there's 3 pipes underneath Willow Road that connect it.
Right.
And then there's a pipe that goes underneath these, like between these houses. Like, see where that little strip of water is right there?
What's your availability?
There's a connector pipe that runs right
I'm in
through
business,
there.
so I can be free.
So the outflow,
I have small kids.
the
so
total
it's
quantity
a
of
little
outflow is
tougher,
just
but
for this one
I
pipe.
can make it happen.
As far as I know, there
Early
might be a
morning
pipe
creek.
here, but I don't think so. I think it's all through this one pipe right here.
And
But there's some overland flow
Okay,
too.
we're
There's some like
typically
when
around,
it.
like-
I mean, a little.
There's
bit.
a lot of
There's a lot
overland
of-
flow.
yeah.
well, we're trying to avoid the overland flow. So,
Yeah.
and we think this is completely
Is
open.
that something that,
Well,
we're-
it could be reclogged. I mean, I hadn't
We
seen
could
a
swing
flood
by
like
on
that
Sun-
for a good 8 years,
Sunday after
like we
our,
just had,
workday. Sunday
and that was when it was
workday.
clogged.
How about after the workday? we
Um,
could come by and take a
It
look
could
at
be clogged with something for all we know.
think
We
I
don't
could be here
know.
tomorrow
So-
morning.
long for it to go down.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I
And
mean,
it went
that would
really
be
fast
a
to fill up.
question for Public
Yeah,
Works.
that
Do they
works.
check that?
That's a
right?
public
that's
works
fine.
question, yeah.
How deep is it now?
It's come down, but it's still over
still-
the
yeah.
natural bank, so
Cool.
it's still like on the
Well,
grass
thank you.
around.
I'll
So-
see you
so
tomorrow.
wait,
Grass, we'll
I
go guy
just wanna-
go out there and check.
Yeah.
I just
So-
think it's because all the rain came down so quick.
We had
so
incredible
fast.
volume really fast, so.
Over 4
it's still
inches.
trying to leave Prospect Heights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
So would it be reasonable for Mr. Matthews' family to contact Public Works and ask them if this outflow pipe is clear?
I
That's
don't
a
think
dicey
it's.
subject.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, very dicey. But also, I don't think that addresses the erosion problem.
Well, one of the problems is that there's water on the property.
Right. Well, no,
And-
I mean, it's the flow of the water against the banks that causes the erosion. And so every rain event we get causes erosion, whether it's small or large. To a certain extent, it does, right? So,
Right.
you know, I mean, you can't.
Even with the pipe wide open, on a heavy rain event, this side of the lake that he lives on still goes underwater.
Yeah.
So it's just the lowest point. And
Where is his family's home?
Right here.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that always.
so this is always underwater, whether
Yes.
this pipe is fully open or not.
I
I
feel
mean,
bad for
I
the
can.
people that live
I
across
could-
the street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They just
I
moved in and
know.
they're like, I can't believe it's happened 8 times this year where they couldn't drive their
Yeah.
car into their
Can't
driveway.
get there.
I know.
I know.
It could be clogged.
Well, it could be a multi-pronged attack. I mean, it seems to me one thing would be to just make sure that if there's an outflow, make sure the outflow is open.
Sure.
I would.
The history of this goes back a few
Right.
more years where we had a very large debate on how to manage the water in the lake, which included putting in a weir, controlling the outflow, and it finally pretty much got shot down.
So the issue is that the water level has been altered and changed around the slough, and through development and then flooding issues and everything. So that culvert was created. The culvert was clogged for a number of years, which maintained a certain level of the slough and lake, which maintained a certain amount of vegetation and wildlife. And then at some point, because of a greater flood, that pipe got opened up all the way. Now, if you think about it, that pipe naturally wouldn't be occurring there, but because of all the development and everything and all the water going in, the necessity for a pipe was there to make the water go faster. However, that really changed the quality of the wetland, and it really changed the quality of the vegetation and everything that was going on over there. It made the water go from being 2 feet to 6 inches, which dramatically changed everything and made everything green. necessitating residents around to come forward and say we don't want it green, and then eventually ended up with
Herbicide.
having herbiciding the vegetation at the lake to make it as clear as the water in this bottle. So it's, you know, it's a little, you know what I mean? It's just, it's complicated.
Which was a shame too, because what we
Right.
did was kill native plants
Right.
that
Tried
were
to-
serving a purpose. But
Um,
I
No,
understand.
they're back.
Yeah,
Even though they're beside it.
They're back.
yeah, but
Yeah.
is it the allodium or is
Is it
it
allodium or
something
something
else?
I haven't taken a close enough look
Yeah.
at it to know, but
Because our fear is it would be something
You've
else.
seen it on the surface of the water this year, probably. Some plant growth in the lake.
Probably haven't visited it as
as
often.
much as your parents. Yes, as your parents. That's right.
Not east
Well,
side.
but there's, I mean, there's good growth and there's bad
Right.
growth. You know, I mean, like a leafy aquatic plant that's native is sort of good, and you take that away, you know, there's a certain nutrient load in the water, and so there, if you think about it as like fertilizer in the water, and so if you take that plant away, something else is going to take that space, and it could be algae, it could be something else that you don't want. So you know,
Curly
it's
pondweed.
yeah, invasive plants and things that, you know, so I don't know, that pipe, I mean, the plan for the MWRD plan is to limit, the whole MWRD concept is to limit the flooding around Owen Court and around there. And this has been in the works for a couple of years now, and so raising the road would do that, and they plan on increasing this to like 3 huge culverts, so the water just goes right through. Which would
This spill pipe
probably
goes-
have a great effect also on the wetland and making it kind of effectively draining the wetland.
Drain it. Yeah.
Which,
Could
So it may not be a
so,
lake
you know,
anymore.
at one point our idea was to have a managed wear system. So if there's a rain event, you would open up the floodgates and the water would drain. And if you had a drier period, you would maintain a level of water there. But it's not possible because of regulations and just floodplain storage. You know, if the water level was higher and all of a sudden we got 4 inches, even if you opened it up, it wouldn't drain as fast. So you can't do that. You have to, you know. So anyway, that's the history of the
Yeah, that,
monster.
That is a monster.
I don't think McDonald Creek can handle all that water.
Well, it's
I
sure.
think
That
it's really
was-
it's a backup
Yeah.
issue also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a watershed. You know, it's a watershed, and you know, we have more development now. We have more parking lots going in. We have impervious surfaces. We have, I mean, in all honesty, I think that 4.5 inches is just 4.5 inches. I mean, that's just, you know, that's just that.
Well,
that's,
you don't build in a
that's-
floodplain. It's
Right. Well,
it's-
right.
You know, that's
but it's
the lesson.
1/10 of our water in a year came down in like 4 hours. The water has to go somewhere. It's gonna go somewhere. Yeah, there's low lying. This whole area is low lying. I mean, everything around it is built up, and everything drains right here from all around. This creek drains right into there. Everything drains into there.
But
And-
back to your original question, there's stuff we can do to help stabilize your shore.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
There's ways we can
and
help.
make it look good and bring in some wildlife for you too.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it does work, and we can show you examples of where it has worked and really stabilized the shoreline
Okay.
in certain areas.
Awesome.
Right. So we'll see you.
Well, I look forward to hearing from you guys then.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Say
you.
hi to your parents.
I will.
Yeah, a little long.
Is there an extra, Jim?
Okay.
Thought I had one.
Well, I'm
Yes.
glad we revisited because Seth didn't know the history of that.
Yeah. Okay, so one.
Okay, update on workday schedules.
Okay, I'm going to start with a little bit of a preface. This month has just been really, really, really a burden with all this flooding and with the loss of the temporary greenhouse.
Which is the next agenda, so we might as well. get
So we'll
it
blend
together.
them together. We spent a lot of time taking the thing down, moving things around, cleaning up the site for the city.
Well, okay, let's back up a little bit. So, so the greenhouse that we had a temporary greenhouse and then a permanent greenhouse, and zoning ordinances don't allow as the amount of square footage of accessory structures. Plus, there's no allowance for a temporary structure, which it was. And one of the neighbors must have complained, and so we needed to get rid of that greenhouse permanently. So it just took a little bit more work, and then being able to.
And then
close that.
then we had the rain, and Agnes ended up with the interns and anybody and everybody who was around moving plants repeatedly because the water just kept going up and up and up, and all these plants are completely submerged and underwater, and so time that we would have spent doing a lot of other things has been really sucked off onto those two topics. That said, go ahead and talk about the work days.
We had an excellent work day. The last work day was at the slough. We had a really good turnout, and we removed a lot of buckthorn, a lot of invasive buckthorn. And in the areas that we removed buckthorn in the winter, there's just hundreds of populations of Michigan lilies that just came up. Like, I mean, they disappeared.
You mean within days?
No. Well, but then that's why we went to the site adjacent to it. We cleared an area right in front of like Lewis's house where
Yeah.
the culvert is. And so we cleared that area, I think in a workday in January, February. And now all of a sudden, I had to move the trail over because there was hundreds of Michigan lilies on the trail. I mean, these are just unbelievable. And so we decided to work on the area just adjacent to that where we also know there's Michigan lilies because there's a lot of buckthorn that just, came back or was never cut down. And we cleared a lot of it. And we asked Public Works to chip it, which we haven't really done. We haven't cleared buckthorn in the summer a lot because it sometimes doesn't make sense with all the leafy tissue they have to remove. We just burn it. But this seemed to make a lot of sense for those, for that vegetation. So.
Yeah, big shout out to Mark because they came out
Yeah.
the next day and just took care of all of it. So that was
should
really
come.
great.
We had
It was
13
really,
volunteers and- yeah.
it harkened back to the old days when we were lopping that stuff by hand and then lining it.
I saw it all out there.
So thank you, Public Works.
Yeah, really nice work day. And then this work day for this weekend, for this Sunday, we'll be working right here. Also, there's been a lot of people using this place over there has really turned out nice. It's beautiful. There's a lot of people using it. I hear all the time from people, walking through there and how nice it is. But unfortunately, it's also created a little bit of a privacy issue with some of the neighbors over here because it does get so much usage. So it's like, on the one hand, yay, because there's so much people using the trail and enjoying it, but on the other hand, some of the neighbors don't appreciate that because they had a big thicket of buckthorn that sort of shielded them from everything around.
It's actually one.
Well, doesn't matter. So what we're going to be doing this weekend or this Sunday, is we're going to be taking some of the really fast-growing native elderberry shrubs, and we're going to just be transplanting them from one area and putting them over 20 feet just along the fence line. Shouldn't take that long, but it'll create a privacy fence really quickly. I mean, by next year, it's going to be 5 feet tall, and it'll be really nice. And
This is the guy that you talked to that day that we had the work day. And the interns last week came out and herbicided all the last of the goutweed.
The
so-
invasive goutweed by the fence, so that we don't have to worry about it. 'Cause-
So is the
'cause if we-
resident aware and supportive
Yeah.
on
Yes,
that?
I think he's reached out to both the park district and and so we've been working together to try to accommodate the complaints. So that's what we're going to be doing on Sunday, and then we have some really nice native plants too that we can plant along the area that we planted recently with MacArthur, but I'll mention that later. But it'll be a really nice work day, and it's supposed to be very hot on Sunday. Very hot, so being in the shade in a nice windy area would be nice.
Okay.
And then future work days, we'll play it by ear with the weather and what needs to be done. The slough is sort of underwater still, so. Anything else about that? Questions? No.
Nope.
Okay. So the greenhouse program, well, unfortunately, we won't be able to grow as many plants.
Unless we can.
Well, yeah, it's a small shift. It's probably not going to happen, but.
One suggestion was to try to get a variance to the code for 2.5 months, so we actually need that temporary structure. Whether that's possible or not, I don't know.
And the whole
Peter
point
and
is
Joe
that
are
that
going to ask.
that structure houses 17,000 plants for just those 2 months to keep them warm, and so it's 17,000 less that we could do. So we could probably do 5,000 a year instead of our normal 20, which is okay. I mean, it's not, but we'll make it work. It's just a lot. We save a lot of money by doing that. Prairie Moon Nursery is selling on sale a tray of plants for $99. That's 38 plants for $99. We have I don't know how many hundreds of trays we have. So it's it's a lot of. When we got our first grant, we spent $10,000 on a few thousand plants. And
Maybe the variance is not that far out of reach, given that argument and giving given the amount of money and plants that are going into the community.
It's just a zoning issue. That's just it. I mean, it's hard to. I think it's tough.
Peter?
It's not. I doubt
Did
it's
you
gonna-
guys have any chance to talk to Dan Peterson about the variance?
Joe's doing that. I don't know if Joe
Okay.
did. So yeah, I'm
right,
unfortunately not
okay.
involved in that.
Okay.
That or the the grading that you were talking about
Yeah.
for the carp.
Yeah.
Joe has, I guess, a contact with IDNR or whatever.
Okay.
So, but I will follow up with Joe tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. I would always be optimistic and hopeful that somebody will come to their
Right.
senses
But if
with
not,
it,
we'll
but
just make it work. It'll be
we just
fine.
have to figure out a different way. Now, what they did have alternatives that they suggested, and that was one was for every commissioner to put a greenhouse on their lawn and take part of the plants.
It's a lot of. It's just too much work.
Let's see, what was the other
Permanent
one?
greenhouse?
Well, wait, now I
They-
don't understand.
Well,
So
it's a-
what's the difference between?
You can have
You can have a permanent structure.
Yeah. You know the small, like the
foundation.
6x8 ones that we have that are plastic. They're aluminum and plastic, and they mount to the ground.
And they have to be on a platform.
Right.
Yeah.
And it matters how many square footage of accessory structures you have on the property. So you can't have more than 1,000, but it doesn't matter what it adds up to. One of your garage is an accessory structure. Can't be more than 720. The second structure can't be more than 200 square feet.
Do you need a permit for it?
Not for that.
Not for
but
that.
You're right.
Not
But
for
no.
the greenhouse.
Well,
It's
okay.
not a permit issue. It's
It's a square footage and zoning issue.
And where would it have to be on your property? The south side, so it gets a lot of sun, or?
I mean, open sunny area, but I mean,
Right.
just I guess the fact of the matter is that there's, to construct a really large greenhouse like that really is only needed for 2 months out of the year. Like that temporary greenhouse costs $200. To attach a greenhouse onto the house is like $40,000. It's a big difference.
but the greenhouse now, that's the permanent greenhouse.
Right.
That was
That's okay.
That's okay.
how much was
Fine.
that in cost?
Oh,
That was $2,800 or something.
yeah. Yeah, right.
And if it was on another site, the problem is it also needs electric and water.
Well, I mean,
You can run extension cords out there and put, like oil-filled heaters in it, because that's what we do.
That's what we do, but yeah.
And then you need to be able to water
It's
it
a lot
as
of work.
well. It's a
Basically.
lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I mean, it's literally morning, wake up very early, turn off the heaters,
it at lunch.
come back before 2 hours later at lunch, right after work. I mean, it's a lot of work for those 2 months to get them healthy and strong and watered, and so it's not. I don't think it's anything that anybody else can just sort of take up. It also doesn't make sense to go off-site and do it because you have to be there. I mean,
Right,
like when we had, what was it? Oh yeah, all of a sudden it turned like 90 degrees in
Yeah.
April. It was just like the end of April, which doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's
So-
emergency watering, and you could be doing
Well-
that till midnight, and it doesn't matter. It's
Well, I
just
had
gotta
to
be
take
done.
them out. I mean, I had to take them out. It was 113 degrees with 4 fans. It didn't matter. All the windows were open, the fans were on. It was 113 degrees. They don't like that. So, we had to take all those trays out. So somebody's always got to be watching them. Otherwise, it's not successful. They just die. So, I guess we'll make it work. We'll see what can be done. It's fine. Maybe we just collect a lot of seed and do a lot more seeding than growing plants.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else about that? You want to say anything?
How does that figure in when you were talking about cold stratification and that's to start the plant to grow? The greenhouse is a stage where it is growing and to
Right.
keep it growing to a certain maturity
Certain maturity faster.
faster.
Right, so we put them in February or 1st of March, and then they're ready by right now.
But
If you left
everybody-
them outside, yeah, I mean, if you left them outside right now, you'd have little seedlings this big. You can do that, and it's in the back of my mind, like, how can we still keep this going? If you had little seedlings, you can still transplant them. It's just that the timing's so off because we're so busy right now. To transplant plants right now, I mean, we're just like battling invasives, we're planting things, it just doesn't make any sense.
Could one do it in their home? Because I remember my sister doing stuff with fluorescent lights. She overtook the dining room.
It's
Peter
not
does
as-
it all.
I do about 4 or 6 trays,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is, right?
You're misting it, you're putting in cellophane over the top or
Yeah, it is a lot
plastic
of work.
lids. You're always watching the sun
Right.
and.
Well, that's why the
It's not
greenhouse.
easy.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
job.
why instead of in the house, it's just like that's what greenhouses are for. That's what they do. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that was the perfect scenario, was to have all this in one place, and
Sure.
then there's two of us there to tag team the whole thing, and then the interns now. So
That's okay. We'll see how it goes.
we'll see how it goes forward.
Let's move on.
Okay. The plan to increase the public access to the wetlands. The handout that I gave you is a map that was two different maps that was given to me by Mark at Public Works. And again, thanks Public Works. These are really, really good maps. The original of this is probably 55 inches by 36 inches. So it's a big map that we can use for what will I envision it's going to be public meetings to talk about the work that we want to do, what we propose, get feedback, how do we modify the plan, all the rest of that. This has just a very minimal amount of information on it at this point because we haven't really discussed this at length, other than some just underlying concepts. You can see the red line that represents the existing trails that are in place right now and people are using when it's not flooded. The blue line is proposed extensions of the nature trail, and basically there's no real trail when it gets over to the lake. Agnes was thinking that that if we turn all of that surrounding area around the lake into, and that's what's represented by the green, areas that are not riparian buffers at this point, but to turn that all into it. These would be mowpaths that would come from the street.
Well,
Down
this
to
is
the
all
front
pending.
lights.
Obviously, if
Yeah.
they're gonna take this road and raise it 3 feet and put a graded slope into the water, this negates this whole plan.
Correct.
Right. But if that's not going to happen, or if it's only going to be this area that's raised or this area that's raised, we could still do that. Or even in the meantime, but putting a trail through this system would sort of be silly because there's so little land there, right, to go along the lake. And there's a road right here, so the thought is to have access points to come out. Access points where you can go up to the water and you can either fish or observe or see. Maybe a little sign is right there to tell you something about it, interpretive sign. I think Public Works has suggested maybe adding a couple of benches around the area. And one of the major things that they were talking about to improve access is to allow for some parking around this area. Right now it's not allowed. And of course this would be this is just an idea, just a plan to present to the city, and then it would go through all of this public opinion, and the residents around here may or may not like that.
We're going to be up for a battle on that one. I can
Yeah.
tell you.
So,
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's their suggestion, but that would increase access. One other area right here, that there's this section right here in the corner, and apparently it's owned by some person somewhere in another state, but it's really not being used for anything.
It's privately owned?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh.
So-
Some,
two
I
plots.
see there's two
Those
lots
two
right
little
there.
plots,
They're-
a
exactly.
woman in Florida.
Supposedly. So, one of the ideas is there's a whole bunch of buckthorn there, there's a nice grassy space, maybe clearing the buckthorn would increase access to fishing right there. You may be able to increase just a little bit of a gravel right there for, those cars that can park there. I mean, that's an option there.
It'd be a
Anyway.
good parking area. The lake is extremely shallow right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's super, super shallow.
So you
So
could
there's not a
build
lot
the-
of fishing to be done right there.
Yeah.
But
But they still go over here and they fish a lot. I mean, it's
'Cause
pretty
it's
shallow
deeper
there,
right
too. Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, but even just,
no, I mean it needs,
recreational use.
yeah, no, it could be developed into something better.
Yeah. Those are just ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you say it's an idea, how would it proceed? In other words, because it is privately owned, what would happen? What's the next step?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is to present an idea to the city. So we just write it all up, put pictures, and say, here you go, and then they would, proceed further with either contacting that person and seeing if it's even plausible, if it's not or is. But these are just ideas to start to work with. Yeah. So, but they would definitely need to reach out to the.
Can we ask the city or MWRD to see any preliminary plans, what they're thinking of with that lake and
Sure.
roads?
And I
Because
think Mark
whatever
was
we're
gonna get back
planning
to us
is
It's
about
pointless. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
pointless if they're going to rip it all up.
Absolutely, I agree.
You know, the biggest thing that can be done for public access to this lake in this area are like pedestrian walkways. Everybody's walking on the road down Old Willow Road here, and it's dangerous.
Yeah. But how do you,
That's the mayor's point, and that's one of the things that he specifically said he wanted to address, was to get people off of Willow Road.
but how, where? I mean, there's like this little tiny piece of land here. I mean, how do you get them off the road?
There's a pretty, I mean, cars park on that little piece of
Yeah.
land. So, I mean, if there's enough room for a car there's enough room for a pedestrian walkway, I think.
Like a boardwalk,
Like
maybe,
a
to not
boardwalk
disrupt.
or a
the-
sidewalk or something. I mean, right now it's gravel that cars pull over on and park.
Yeah.
And then
They're still
everybody's
gonna need-
walking around, in the
True.
street right in the middle
Right.
there.
But that may get all torn up soon.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
that's
true.
the problem. We
I
don't
know.
But
Well,
I mean,
But then they
if
also
the
need
point
a
is
place for parking.
making it more available for public access, it needs walkways.
Yeah.
And it needs to go from probably 83 down to the lake. I mean, it needs to continue on that side. I mean, they put sidewalks in on Thomas from Hersey all the way to 80, not
Oh, yeah.
83, but
Peter,
also-
was
But you're
there,
talking about a regular sidewalk or like
Hold
a
on.
boardwalk to not disrupt the I mean, a sidewalk is
we
different.
can make it permeable.
Oh,
But the point is, it needs to be a
There's-
walkway that's
yeah.
off the road.
right, right. Like whether it's a boardwalk.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
the
and it can be
water.
done smartly,
Right.
without a doubt.
but now
Without,
Peter,
like,
are you
heavy
aware,
machinery
was
on
there any
What John is
plan
saying, I think, is
for
there's no
extending the
sidewalk going from
sidewalk?
Elmhurst
Yeah, I know.
Road
Around the
there.
lake or the slough.
Well, just going anything east of 83.
What I'm aware of that we're currently trying to work on through grants is the east side with the metro station, trying to get our metro station hooked
Yeah.
up,
Oh.
because our metro station doesn't have any sidewalks that go to it at all, which is pointless. So that's what we're working on now. I mean, the bigger picture is, the major thoroughfares, Camp McDonald Road, all the way from
Yeah, that's a big
83 all the way to the metro station. Links such as that. I don't know if there's anything smaller around like the slough or around Hillcrest Lake that they talked about in the comp plan. I'll have to look at that and see.
Yeah.
just the
To
general
be
plan.
honest with you, I understand what you're saying about how if they want to make this more accessible, they need pedestrian walkways. I don't know how high that is on the priority of sidewalks, because as
Yeah.
you know, Prospect Heights
I
doesn't
don't
have
think
many
sidewalks.
Yeah.
makes
We
sense.
don't
Sidewalks
want
we do
sidewalks.
have.
Yeah, no, we don't want
We got through grants
don't.
for the safe routes to school
Well,
to
I
go
mean,
to
yeah,
the
not-
schools
not
because
right
we don't
here,
want
though.
children walking in the street.
Well,
Well,
last
we
I
was-
heard, they were going to extend it from Schoenbeck down Thomas to 83, and then there's sidewalk there, so at least it connects that dangerous section.
Yeah.
And then the talk was not extending it down to the Lake Slough area, just because it doesn't really connect anything important.
Right.
Well, no, it does.
No.
No, there was,
No, but
because
I
there
mean-
was talk about it connecting to St. Helens
Well, let's talk
School
about
from
so
Elmhurst
I think-
Road and vice versa to Hersey. And when the sidewalk, where's it end right now? Is that,
Schoenbeck.
is it Schoenbeck?
Right?
Yeah, extending it to Elmhurst and then to Wheeling. So, but it sounds like that's not really
well,
going
I mean,
anywhere.
I think that sidewalks make
Again,
sense.
any sidewalks we've done
Yeah,
have been through grants through like Safe Routes to School.
Yeah.
The grant that we're trying to get now is a RTA grant because of the metro station to actually get, like I said, connections through there. Because it's again, Safe Routes to School has to deal with schools. The RTA has to deal with mass transit. So that's how you have to tie in those pedestrian crossways, or they call them multi-use paths. Because sometimes sidewalks don't get the grants, but multi-use paths do.
So this whole area is going to be raised 3 feet. This right here.
Well, in
Possibly,
theory,
in
that's
theory,
that's
but
yeah.
it's
So
still
when
in the
they,
works.
when, as was mentioned before, it would be great to look at the proposal because one could work in conjunction with the people doing this road of saying, okay, what are you going to put to the north and south of that road, and can we work together on making that permeable paths
Or a
and
bridge.
Sure,
and-
yeah.
We've
Yeah.
asked
We've
for
had
this, and
this
we've asked for this
conversation,
Yeah.
information,
and we've met with
it's just
them,
fallen
and
on deaf ears.
no, it's not true. We've actually met with the people that are like
Yeah.
working on the plan, and we
Right.
we've discussed all of this. It just seems like it's sort of like on a stand.
Very snail's
depth.
pace.
It's
Forever.
yeah, right. So I mean, this might not even happen, honestly. I mean, it could happen, but it's really complicated. I mean, there's so much funding issues that are involved. There's compensatory storage that has to be found off-site.
Well, I mean, I
which
think
is- I mean, it's
Peter's
just-
point realistically is we need to know if they're going to do this, because why put in all this time and energy
Right.
and money
Right.
if they're going to rip it up
Right.
and raise it?
Well,
Okay.
I think that if we present a plan, then the city will further work with MWRD and figure that out.
Okay.
But if we have a plan to, at least if we have a concept idea that this should be permeable, this should be, consider a bridge, consider
Right.
increasing pedestrian access along Willow Road. Make sure it's part of the MWRD plan if you're going to go through with it. These sort of ideas, I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking
Part of the
for
idea
ideas
also,
to
John,
move
was
forward.
one of the ways they were looking at increasing compensatory storage was to dig this
Take a big hole right
corner
there.
out there.
That's what they were considering.
Yeah, MWRD.
Well,
That
there's
was
all talks of all
talk.
different, ideas. Compensatory storage being over here somewhere, compensatory storage being over there by the library.
So,
Because
I mean, I'm not a hydrologist, but if you dig a giant hole right here, it doesn't, in low water times, doesn't it drain the lake into the hole?
Yes, it does.
yeah, I mean,
And
I
then the
don't know the
slough
details.
also.
Yeah, but I don't know the details of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it could have been. I don't know. I don't think that
It's complicated.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
But definitely for this plan to happen, they're going to need compensatory storage. And that's complicated in its own right because that means acquiring property, permission, all of these different things.
Well, I thought they were talking about making this
Yeah, right?
flat.
Like up here.
the compensatory. Yeah.
Possible as a possibility.
All right.
But understand,
Either
it's
way.
on hold right now, so there
Not
is,
even on hold, it's just slow.
Storage of water.
And
What's
there's
that?
funding
Yeah.
too. I mean, you have to
Water.
think about how many
Yeah,
millions
so
of
for every-
dollars this is
See, when
this
they
might
raise
cost.
raise
the
it,
road,
you
they
have to-
displace
Right.
water that would have normally gone somewhere
I mean, we're
else.
talking about flooding issues for like a few homes around this area. That's going to cost millions of dollars to do, right? I mean, there's a lot of issues at hand. I mean, how many millions? Many millions to do such a big project.
Peter, do you know how much this project was supposed to cost?
More than we had.
Was it
not
like
to be joking. That's the big. The
$3
big
million
thing
or
is we're-
something?
We need to partner with someone like MWRD and I think even Cook County in this case. And when you do that, especially because it's a waterway, there's those hoops you have to jump through,
Right.
which is the compensatory storage issue. So.
It's complicated.
I don't know
It's
what the split is.
complicated.
I'm assuming it would be
Yeah.
an 80-20 split,
It's
but
very
worse than
this,
millions.
it's got to be a couple $1 million project. So
It's always complicated.
I just don't have that information. I mean,
Okay, that's fine.
You
I
know,
can find
and
out
it-
for you.
Yeah, and you know what? It could happen in 5 years. And so would it make sense to stabilize a little bit of shoreline in the meantime? Maybe, maybe it would. 5 years is a long time. What if that's 10 years? What if it never happens?
I think we start with the model stabilizing the shoreline with this guy's house, and then that can be the model for everything.
It's not a
a
bad
pilot
idea.
project.
A pilot
Pilot
project.
project.
That's a really great idea. But let's find out if there's no easement there, or if there is
Right.
one, then to get permission to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in the right now, right? I mean, right now,
Baby stuff.
baby steps, but we can present this project
Yeah.
as sort of a, what we see happening to improve the recreational use, but also in a very like natural way, right? And that increasing. So did you write the ideas? Pedestrian access along Willow
Yeah,
Road,
okay.
possibly even a bridge, right?
But as far as this pilot project, you can see from the map that there is
It's what it
no
looks
easement
like.
issue there. The water's going over their property line.
That's what it looks like.
And that's,
The easement's in the lake.
right.
Yeah.
So,
There's been so much erosion.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's possible
Yeah.
that there was an easement.
Yeah, well, you
Right.
can see by those signs that say no swimming, they're in the
Yeah.
lake by 10, 20 feet.
Yeah.
They used to be on the shoreline.
I
That's how
know.
much that lake has grown.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It is a good point. And and we say that we're going to stabilize the shoreline with these plants, but sometimes when it's that bad, I mean, I hope that can happen. But sometimes when the water flows that fast, when there's so much going through a system,
I don't think it's a fast flowing
not right
body
there.
of water. It goes up and down,
Yeah.
which
That,
You know.
that
It's
causes
better
the
than-
erosion when it goes up.
Yeah, I
It
suppose,
pulls
yeah.
back down. When it
Pulls
comes
back
back
down.
down, it's pulling the soil with it.
Well, I think at least to do it in a. I always feel like naturalizing and doing a more natural way is better than
All right, so
concrete.
we'll. I mean, so we're gonna. When do we present this plan?
Well, we're supposed to have a plan for the June
28th, is it?
25th is the next meeting.
25th,
25th.
June
Wow,
25th council meeting. Agnes was suggesting,
Monday.
given everything that's happened, we try to push that back a
We
month.
could do
But I think we'll just
do it.
get it,
Just-
do it and get it over with.
Just ideas and concepts. Nothing made, nothing like, no major pictures.
Does it have to be a
and-
slide presentation or just
Little bit.
I talked to Peter about that. We would give we can glom onto what stuff that's already
Been done,
existing
yeah.
and just modify it. So we talked about doing a verbal presentation with slides and then having a handout as well. So I've already got stuff that I can easily just modify, but we need to have more of a prolonged discussion about this at some point, whether it's over there or where.
Well, I mean, we're having a discussion right now.
Right.
If we have a general plan for things, I think if we agree to it, I mean, that's basically, we just talked about it.
I mean, well, all right.
I mean,
so,
the plan is already there, is it? Is it not? I mean,
I
it's
mean,
what we
essentially,
came
yeah.
up with the hay.
Yeah, the hay report.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely,
right.
totally. It's just these added things, like, well, one thing that we didn't discuss is having these, the boardwalks in the wet areas. We did discuss it at the last meeting.
Right.
To
Right.
increase access, we would have boardwalks over the wetter areas that are a little bit elevated, so you could walk there when.
I think the major
moist.
issue they're talking about here is getting people off the street. If I'm
Yeah.
hearing things correctly,
Sure.
so increasing public access means moving people off the street, and so,
Well, Mark's solution, again, Mark from Public Works, his solution was to get them to park on Hillcrest Drive.
But they didn't just mention it. I mean, they mentioned the whole area, right?
Well, he said there's already parking on
Recreational
Hillside, and
use.
it's one side only.
Yeah.
And he said that just needs to be expanded to do the same thing over here.
sorry.
Right.
Um,
And people
but
already
certainly
use this
doing
area. They
something
just don't
with
use
this
it when it's
chunk
wet.
of land right here.
It would make sense to have a
would-
boardwalk here,
You
too.
could put some cars in there pretty easily, if that could be worked out. So, I mean, we could suggest it.
Or we could have another special meeting and talk about it. I don't know.
Parking, permeable paths,
Boardwalks.
and a boardwalk. I mean, it's really
Interpretive
and-
signage.
and of
Benches
course
and
the-
interpretive signs. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it, right?
Right.
Okay. I'll just put it together like that, but I'm not going to locate any benches because
No.
it's pointless.
It's just a.
suggest a number of
Right.
benches.
Just a
Okay.
general idea at this point, and then if they're serious about it, then we can.
Yeah, come up with an
Figure out where
actual
it's gonna go.
architectural design plan. Kidding. Should we just agree to that, or
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we have.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so
Should
I'll
we
start
vote?
assembling all that stuff,
it's just an agreement? We don't have to vote on
and
it.
then I'll get it out to you guys as a package, both the visual and the written, the abstract. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, by the way, this guy said 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. He was going to be at that house if we wanted to come by there and take a look at the condition. So
Anybody's around?
I have a water committee meeting on Saturday.
I could do
Tomorrow morning at 8.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I
8
can
o'clock.
come by. 8
What
o'clock?
are we talking about?
The
visitor.
Visitor.
Oh,
Mr. Matthews.
I've been there a million times.
So 8 o'clock if anybody wants to come take a look. He's going to be there.
Okay.
All right, so that's that.
The Park District project. Just briefly. I mean, it's a,
The Park District project is the project that we talked about right over here in the sort of cabana area where they have the bands and all that. The Park District was in the process of, they're
Replacing
going to
the
be in the
pavers.
process of replacing the pavers. Dino wanted to put in permeable paving and then augment it with
native plants.
native plants. So basically he just wanted to supply a list of plants and
And ideas about how to incorporate that, at the side and
so
where.
I guess they're just going to build it on the fly and we'll go back and plant plants. So
So this year we still have thousands of plants, so we can do that.
So that's it. Not much more to it than that. Nature Speaks. What was the startup number that 75?
Some,
Dr. Wilhelm?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no,
no.
that's
That's the starting number. They count
max
backwards.
capacity.
Oh,
We're
I
at
see.
56 available slots for
So there's
Walmart.
like 20 signed up basically.
So there's like 20 people signed up. So if you guys have not registered for that talk, please do so. That is Thursday the 28th. And that will be an outstanding talk. I anticipate that it will be really well attended. The first announcement will go out tomorrow morning to the regular mailing. Usually we get about 10 people sign up immediately right after that. I would encourage you guys to reach out to just about anybody and everybody you know that's interested in this. We're going to talk Poplar Creek and the folks we know at Morton and anywhere else. It's a really great opportunity to listen to this guy talk about this. So,
Did you mention it to the Northtown Garden Society? Would they be willing to come back up?
I did not, but
that's a great idea.
that's a really good idea.
Really good idea.
Yeah,
They
I will
could
do
get
that.
some ideas from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then I think you all know from last time Joel Greenberg is signed on
Yes.
as the fall,
That's
which
great.
is really
I can't
crazy. So we're on a roll.
Yeah, we sure are.
I can't even. Every time I say this, though, every single speaker, I'm like, I can't believe
She
that.
dares
I can't
me.
believe that. I can't believe. Yeah, it's really nice. Very nice.
The bird walks. Mary Lou and Lee, of course, took a pass this time, and Cindy Lubecki filled in, and they were.
But they made a guest appearance.
They did on the very last walk. They pull up. Mary Lou and Lee are in a car, and they stop and they get out and they go walk with us for a little bit. And it was just so great. It was really a really heartwarming moment. So thoroughly enjoyed that. But a lot of birds this year, man. Just
A lot
just
of
a
birds.
completely different planet
Oh my
this
gosh.
time around. So.
Unbelievable.
They'll both be back for the fall bird walks, so we're looking forward to
Just
that
unbelievable
as well.
amount of species.
But Cindy has sort of become the ad hoc bird monitor, and she has already forwarded her list of 98 species that she's seen.
And there's a few missing on there too.
And then we have a list that we
Unbelievable.
have that needs to be added to that. I know you have some that you've seen. And then Mary Lou has her list. So
You wanna put
at the
those
end, we'll
together.
compile all those, and when we end up having to give a report on everything, that will be part
We
of
should
the
just
report.
compile it anyway.
Yeah. I think we've also lost our butterfly monitor. He unsubscribed from the journal, so I think we probably need to get a butterfly monitor. So if
Yeah, if anybody knows anybody.
knows, the monarchs are going crazy right now. We have like 12 in our nursery, and 6 of them went to chrysalis this morning. It's just
But they're
it's
just
crazy.
everywhere. They're just
I've
monarchs,
seen them floating
caterpillars,
around all over the
everywhere,
place, yeah.
everywhere. So it's really nice. And just the
And
birds.
just briefly, how do you monitor butterflies?
Well, I mean, there's training
Very
involved.
carefully.
No. I'm sure there's butterfly monitoring like networks and training, and so there's a certain amount of time you spend in a certain area, and either through observation, and some people actually use net, depending on how experienced you are, and so you count the amount of species and what species over a certain amount of time in an area. So that's kind
So
of
how do you
basically
not
what
count
Chris did.
twice and stuff like that?
yeah, I don't know. I'm not a
I know,
butterfly
it's
part of the
monitor.
training.
It's part of the
As it flies
training.
by, you have to put a
Sorry.
dot of nail polish on its wings.
I know plant monitoring is much easier. They don't move.
Last time we talked about this too. I think Jill, you were going to ask Kathy Brady if she was still going to do
Right,
frog.
and I
frog
haven't
monitoring.
asked her. She wasn't at the last
Okay.
Yeah,
meeting.
we have a list. I mean, a list of just observation and the calls that we hear. So it's pretty much the same this year for frogs
Bullfrogs are out of control, I can tell you that.
Yeah, they are.
and green frogs, bullfrogs and green frogs too.
Yeah.
As are the turtles.
The turtles are laying eggs everywhere. Just
So
unbelievable.
do we
These
need a
alligator
herbicide?
turtles, have you seen them?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had 8 turtles lay eggs in the yard.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
right, snapping turtles. I mean, there's like 7 snapping turtles, and everybody asks, "Do we have snapping turtles?" Yeah, we have plenty of, I guess, of snapping turtles because they
You
just.
gotta be careful.
Oh my gosh. But they're really, you know what, actually, one of the snapping turtles came under. We have an exclosure for the plants, so the rabbits don't eat the baby plants. And so the turtle came under the fencing into the exclosure, laid her eggs in the actual like fencing in a really safe location, because obviously nothing's going to climb the fence to get in there, and then she couldn't get back out. And so I had the interns like to help me, and all we did was lift the fence, and there was no snapping. She was just completely happy to be able to like leave and just go away. Didn't hide in her shell, didn't snap, just lifted she just walked right out.
Good.
If she could have said thank you, she would have, and went on her way. So it's really sweet to see all this wildlife around there. It's really nice.
Okay. Nature preserve, the interpretive signage. We just finally got the
Everybody saw
last
it.
approval from the city. So everybody's made their corrections. Everything is corrected. I'll output the final format of the files tonight, and those 6 will go off to production. So we still have the 2 signs, and the original concept was one goes on this side and one
At the
goes
ends,
at
at the beginning and the end.
beginning and the end. The one at the beginning talks about the project and the city and the park district and all the rest of that stuff, and then at the end, I have no idea what it says.
So any ideas would be
So
nice.
many ideas.
You've already seen the 6 sign.
end.
You've already no. Well, you've seen the 6 that we have. So any ideas would be greatly appreciated. What
For the end sign?
for the end for
You
2
all
of
come
the end
back now, you
signs.
hear?
For the
Picture
2
of
Not
end.
leaving.
Just a picture of that would be good.
In order for you to
True.
leave this trail, you have to sign up and become a volunteer.
Yes. Yeah. So really, any
Yeah,
ideas?
I do have before and after pictures to incorporate in both of those signs. So,
Yeah. I mean,
It's
but
good.
ideas.
but
They're
anybody
all-
got any
yeah.
ideas?
Inspirational poem.
All right, so 6 weeks is supposedly the lead time for those. So we already have the posts.
We have everything except the
So
signs.
we could actually mount those posts this workday if we wanted to.
I mean, we do have the. Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
have what the signs. Yeah, we can do that.
So
Okay. All right.
So that's a possibility of adding that to the workday. Okay.
If there's not too much to do, but yeah.
All right.
Okay, next is the special workday with Poplar Creek Prairie Stewards. Of course, they were wonderful. They came out in mass. It was just unbelievable. They transplanted just hundreds of plants. We had a good time. Anybody, probably Seth, you were there, right? Do you have anything to say about that? Or
That's great. It's
yeah,
good.
very enjoyable.
Mhm.
It always is when they come out. This will be the second time that they came out to help.
And did
so.
they leave with some?
They did. Some of the plants were ready. So, from the previous time that they transplanted. And they have picked up some more of the plants that we grew for them. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about that. Northtown Garden Club field trip. This was just so enjoyable. It was really great. So, Northtown Garden Club, we gave a presentation in the city to them.
Let Ed tell the story.
Well,
Yeah.
so the presentation we did at, I forget the name of the park in Chicago.
Warren Park.
Warren Park. It went very well. Obviously, we made a connection with the group and then invited them out to actually see the project in person. And then that was June 2nd. So they came out, we met, and then did a guided tour that Agnes did all around, pointing out the native plants, the things that we did, the challenges that we had, the things that we are looking to do, and then did a complete circle around the South Slough, and then ended up for a nice front lawn luncheon. And it was just really nice to be able to break bread and get to know them a lot better. But they were just thrilled. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was
so
a
delightful.
it was a very enjoyable afternoon.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah,
much
as a sidebar too, they asked her if they can make another donation to the NRC.
They've already made a donation for ours.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they
So we turned them down.
This was just today.
just last night or
Last
today.
night,
Yeah,
yeah.
so this morning I sent it to you.
Oh, we have new
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But it was a good thing we were at Community Days because 2 people were trying to find them. Remember I texted
Yes,
you?
thank goodness.
So they came to our
They-
table and
that
said,
was-
where's the group? So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
So, and that's a good idea to invite them to the Nature Speaks
yes,
as well.
very good. Yeah. Great. And so the community day, Jill.
Jill, you want to tell us about Community Day?
It was blasé, unfortunately. Not very nice weather, but I still felt it was good that we had a presence there. You know, people did come up to the table and did speak with us, but it was very thin.
Yeah,
crowd.
it always is sort of poorly attended from that standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean, the block party is where
yeah, that's where
we
the
get
action
a lot
is.
of traffic, but I think we just have to have a presence there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and so much of that's weather dependent. I mean, I've been to some of the community days that are very well attended, but not on bad weather days.
But I find it's good too because I did get to speak to some of the guys on the fire department and police department just about city issues. So
Sure.
it's a good time to see city officials.
Absolutely.
And Dana,
I
you had a
agree.
conversation with the mayor, correct? You
I
shared
did, yeah.
breakfast together.
yeah, I inadvertently just kind of I sat down and all of a sudden he showed up and started talking to me, and so he was very appreciative of the work that we do. He thought we had a just terrific outreach program. He complimented us on the journal and our communication. Just thought it was all really top flight. So that was nice feedback to hear. Really nice. Great.
Okay. And then we had the MacArthur Junior High School. This was their Make a Difference Day. And they came out over here, right to Morava, right along that hill, and we had discussed previously to convert that whole hill into like a little prairie. And so a month ago I came out and I herbicide the hill, and they came out and they planted 800 plants in 15 minutes. I don't know. I think each year I bring out more plants, but each year there's more students that come out too. So it's like, I think it's going to take them 40 minutes this time, and no, it took 15 minutes. But then afterwards we had a really, really nice walk through and a lot of just educational talk and questions, and they had many questions. They really enjoyed this whole area over here. Surprisingly, when I asked them, I asked, you know, how many have been over here to Morava? Almost everybody's been over here in this complex, but how many have walked this path? And at least 6 or 7 raised their hand that they've actually been walking this path over here, which is a large number of just, you know, these kids. And so I think we had a really good time. You know, ended up talking about so many different issues, even drainage, which I was very surprised. You know, we were talking, the kids even asked, and I said, well, you know, where do you think the water drains, you know, off of the streets and, you know, parking lots? And so they were all under the impression that it drains into the sewer, and they were very shocked to learn that that actually drains into this creek. So that was a big one for them, I think. And so they immediately on their own started picking up garbage around the creek. It was just like this domino effect. You know, you tell them that the health of the creek depends on, you know, what's going on, and that everything goes into this creek, and they just started picking up garbage. They said, well, that's not right, and they started just going in there, and you know, just they took out like a bag of garbage from all
Are we
around.
talking 11-year-olds?
These are 6th graders, so 11, 12.
11, 12?
Really, really great age. Very, just very enjoyable. Very nice. They did a lot of work. I think we had just a great time. So this will be the 3rd Make a Difference Day that they participated in. So twice a year now. We're working on twice a year with them. It's very nice. I enjoy it a lot. Really great, smart kids.
Okay, summer interns. New
Summer
business.
interns. Yeah, new business. Summer interns.
Couldn't be happier with the 2 interns. Oh my God, the amount of work they do is just crazy. They are so driven to work, and they have like they're very competitive between the 2 of them, and they're just so focused on what they're doing. And when they're doing their education in the morning, they're really into it, and it's just
You could tell if they study or not too.
it's-
Quiz plans tell it all.
It is so rewarding and such an incredibly great program, not only for them individually, but
Get a lot of work done.
the work that gets done for the city and the park district is just,
All over.
they've done nothing but focus on invasives. They've done a lot of planting as well, but most of the time
Much planting.
they've done invasive stuff that
Yeah,
we just could
we're
never have
focusing on
gotten
that.
to.
No.
I
mean, I used to take days off of work
They've been at Heron
for this.
Pond. They've been Tully
Live
Park.
everywhere.
They've
Cedar
been
Prairie.
Rava.
Trying to
the
focus
slough.
on like the high, you know, our project areas. So like here and the Slough and the Cedar Prairie. Haven't had a chance to go out much to like, you know, the other
The
comment
remnant, right?
sites.
Yeah.
But then, you know, with the flooding, it's been sort of, and the weather, you know, everything's chosen so carefully because, you know, it can't be too humid, it can't be too hot, it can't.
Do they work together or
They work together.
They do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Gabby just got her herbicide license on Tuesday.
Right.
So, you know, but they were tag teaming the whole time. Like she was brush cutting, he was herbiciding, and you know, always trying to find things so that they can both work together. But it's always tough because there's so much that needs to be herbicided. You have to have the perfect temperature. You know, you can't just. So. And it's, you know, it's.
Who cuts Heron Pond, the grass back there? Is that the city?
Park District.
It's the park district, but someone cut it, and it wasn't the park district because I asked them. There was an area, so we lined.
There's a problem.
Yeah, right.
So
So they're gonna do that. The center. The problem has been though that someone cut the outside and not the inside. Right? So Park District is supposed to cut the inside of that.
What do we
And leave the
I
outside.
think just as a point.
So there's a path that we created around Heron
So
Pond.
as a point to future paths, though, I think we have to make sure that they are wide enough for a mower to get down them.
Yeah.
Because this one's kind of like this,
Yeah.
and I thought as I walked it today, in fact, that there's a mower's not going to get through parts of this.
Well, I think the other issues here is maybe we skip the mower. I mean, this is the area that's like has only that much land left.
Well, I know, but you got to cut the path down the middle, don't you?
Yeah, but you can use a brush cutter and you can have a smaller path.
Oh, but is the city going to use a brush cutter, or the city's just going to take
Not
their
the city,
mower out there?
the park district.
I mean, the park
The
district.
park district. Well, I mean, we can talk to them, but they
Oh,
have
okay.
brush cutters. I mean,
Alright.
it's just that if you increase that, you're not having any shoreline civilization whatsoever.
That's a
'cause
very
you're
narrow
mowing it.
strip, I know.
It's such a narrow strip. You've got like 10 feet of shore. That's it. You know. But you're right. It doesn't look good at all, and it's you know, it's not a path.
Ease of cutting, though, I think is important in these areas to maintain a trail.
I know.
And you know, most decks are 48 inches at most, and it's a 4-foot trail. That's not huge.
Right.
And
But
then it
when we
gets
talked
cut.
to Dino, when we talked
It's
to
not a
Dino,
special.
Yeah. When we talked to Dino, we discussed it with him. When we had him out there, and he said that they'll just go straight down the middle, and they'll just turn back around and go out that
Yeah.
way. But
As long as they can get
maybe
down this thing, it's little.
we should go. And,
There's parts that are pretty, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, there are parts that you're not going to get a mower down.
Yeah.
should we have?
That's
Dino
an
back out there?
ideological
Should we
discussion.
go? Should we? Yeah, I mean, should we go and measure and get them out there and talk about it?
Sure, if you want.
I just feel like, yeah, maintenance-wise, I mean, it's like how, you know, to have the interns doing it, it's complicated because there's so many other things.
No,
and you
I
have to
think
have a
if the
regular
park
schedule.
district, I mean, let the park district cut it. Let's just give them parameter, you know,
Yeah.
something that they can
Right.
cut. So it's not
And make it easy.
make it easy.
Make
I
it
mean,
easy,
you know,
yeah, right. But I just worry, you know, like we did that, and then all of a sudden, I just, you know, last year we spent money on seeds that the park district actually gave money for seeds, and we put all of these seeds out there to stabilize the shoreline, and then it got all mowed down. It's like, you know, hundreds of dollars of seeds just like went poof. It doesn't make any sense to, like, there's got to be a plan.
Do not
you
mow
know?
signs.
Or do not mow sign, or like, and so we thought that by laying this out, at least, you know.
no, I
And-
think it's a great idea. I just think it needs
Yeah.
to be more uniform so
Yeah.
that a mower can easily go up and back it, and then it's done.
Right.
And then everybody's happy. They got their path, and then the sides of it are not cut.
Well, it's the opposite happened actually.
I
The
know.
sides
I don't know
got-
why they did
The
that.
sides got cut and not the center. Yeah, we need another conversation for the park district. Let's do that.
Okay. Moving on. Block party. It's next Saturday.
Do we own a mower that we can?
We use my mower, and I mow the slough in the parts that we actually mow. So that would be the areas around the plantings. It's the path behind the sign, and then in front of the sign, and then over to Isaac Walton.
I'm just thinking of at Heron Pond. You know, to mow it, it would take 5 minutes. I mean, it's just one
Right.
path. We just go down the center.
Right.
Yeah, we
Just
gotta
to
get it in there.
establish.
But it's city property.
No,
park district
But I'm just saying to
Yeah.
establish a precedent of how it should be done. If we do it again and again for a few weeks, it becomes clear. The path becomes established by us establishing it,
True.
and then and then it becomes obvious what they should do.
Right.
I could easily run a mower up and down it.
Well,
But the
depends
prob-
on the water.
There's water. There's always
Yeah.
standing water.
Yeah.
You have to drive over private property to get back there if you want to try. So even in these not so heavy rain events, it does collect a lot of water back there, so it sits for a while.
It does. The park district
But there's a
even
floodplain.
Yeah.
the park district couldn't get in there for weeks because of that too.
Yeah.
So I think one of the residents just took it upon themselves, and then that's how that got mowed on the
Yeah.
outside of it. Yeah.
It's still underwater. I mean, yeah.
It's still underwater. But the interns are gonna. I told them about that, and they are gonna go in with the brush cutter
All right.
probably tomorrow. They were even there today. They may have even done it today. I don't know. But
I didn't talk to them this afternoon.
it's on the list of things to do too.
The block party is, as I was starting to say, is next Saturday. I don't know who's going to be available to come and help out. If you can, that's really, really terrific. Setup time is around 1 o'clock again. Can we borrow your flags and stuff?
Borrow all that stuff. I am going to be out of town that weekend.
Okay.
But,
And then we'll get
certainly
it.
all in.
Get it like Friday or something.
Yeah.
Or sometime during next week.
Yeah.
We thought it would be nice to actually invite volunteers to come and help. Interns, one of the interns said he would definitely come and hang out with us and help. So I think ultimately we'll have it covered. It's we have all the handouts and the printouts and all that stuff is already taken care of. So it's just a matter of printing the files. We have the boards, all that stuff square away. It's just, we usually bring an assortment of equipment to put on display.
Are we going to do a couple shifts or?
I think whenever whatever time you can show up and stay as long as you can, that's great.
Okay. I'll definitely
Agnes
be
is
there.
going to be not available until like 6 o'clock that evening, 5 or 6. She's got a class with Wilhelm that day. And
Can we get your autograph?
Yeah.
I will probably be there from start to finish. So
And finishes what time?
10 or 10:30.
PM.
Sort of.
Right.
It was early last year, I thought.
I think it's 10.
Something like that.
It ends. And then it just has to be broken down and taken back.
I can help out early. I don't work that Saturday.
Oh,
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So just
Good.
at some point in time, just send me an email. Let me know what your
Yeah.
availability is, and then
Dana
I'll
really
start.
needs a lot of help to like bring everything
Yeah,
here.
early. I'm
Yeah.
Want
there
us to
early.
meet you at your house before?
Yeah, he
We
needs.
can do that.
Well, I
he
think
needs
we
help
have
just
everything-
To, like, load the van
Yeah.
and just bring it here and
Right.
unload it and unpack it, and
Right.
that's basically.
And I'll be able to help with the ladder part.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
Great.
When
Wonderful.
the beer starts flowing, is that what you mean?
Well, you know.
I had a quick
When the
idea,
food
but I
Yeah.
don't know if there's time enough to make it. At the community day, St. Alphonsus School had a wheel, and the kids were spinning it, and it landed on something. They got a prize, sunglasses, a beach ball, or something. And I thought if we had it like true/false questions. The slough is a natural wetland. Buckthorn emits a poison into the ground, and something like that. We could take the information off of our website actually, just
Yeah.
to get people thinking, and then we can give the plants as a prize. I don't know.
Well, the plants we've always traditionally given out
Oh,
in
yeah, we can
exchange
give
for
other
an email
prizes, too.
address. Look.
Oh, cool.
By the way, I forgot to tell you, Tully Park, there was a white egret in the water when I was walking my dog Sunday afternoon, and a blue heron flew over us
Nice.
as we
Very
were walking
nice.
the park.
Very nice.
Was that a blue heron?
That's a
It
blue
was,
arrow.
yeah.
Yeah,
Big
a blue heron just flew in
Yeah, into
right
the creek.
As we
about
talked.
40 feet from us.
Yes.
Anyway,
Uh,
so I don't know
That-
if there's
I like
time
that
enough
idea.
to make, but it was interactive, and the
Yeah.
kids loved spinning.
Was it like homemade, or
Yeah, I think it was.
I don't know how complicated that would be to do.
I don't know who's crafty.
certainly wouldn't have any time whatsoever
Okay.
to
Well,
to
maybe
work
for
on
the
that.
future.
Yeah.
And I could,
Right.
Or if
could
someone
create
wants
the
to-
questions if you like,
Yeah.
and run it by you.
Yeah. That's a really good idea. I like that.
All right, so you're going to compile the plants then?
Yeah, I'll get the plants ready. And a couple of volunteers have said they can come on this Wednesday to put them into those 6-packs.
So I think the lesson we've learned is it's always you'll always need more, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But each year I bring more and then we run out. I don't know how many to bring this year to not
That
run
was
out.
an interesting thing at the community day. We had probably 3 or 4 different people come up and tell us that they had planted the plants that they've gotten from us at community, and they're really doing great.
Blackberry.
And they really
No, that's
like
good.
Mhm. And they wanted
it's
different
cool.
species.
Right.
Yeah.
So this
Yes.
year we've got different species.
That's for difference.
Good.
Yeah. That's really nice because that means that they're all in
Yeah.
Prospect Heights.
It's those gateway plants we were talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
The milkweeds.
All right, Jill, do you have anything on the?
The Donald Creek Commission, they met on May 22nd. Their chairperson, Kathy Brady, was absent, so Jan Fuller chaired the meeting. Their plan was to make their presentation at the June 11th City Council workshop meeting. I understand they did not, so that means it's pushed to July. Progress on their brochure distribution, they're still talking about doing the spreadsheet and getting wider coverage and maybe mailing it with a cover letter, so they're still discussing that. They had Mark Roscoe present. He's Superintendent of Public Works. He met with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District regarding Camp McDonald Bridge, and he went over the email message that he sent out. In essence, he said that he met with MWRD regarding flow, level, erosion, bank stabilization, bridge work, and debris. The intent of the meeting was to discuss our end of the creek from Camp McDonald Road to the Mount Prospect Park. They looked at locations in this area and talked through ownership and responsibility. They then reviewed the stabilization that was done over 20 years ago on 905 Camp McDonald Road when the bridge was replaced. He said the block work is still in good condition for its age and is still doing what it was designed for. He talked about a large-scale creek plan for stabilization. He said a comprehensive plan would need to be developed. He was asked about raising Willow Road, and he said MWRD still has it on their quote board, so it's still a consideration, but no report on that.
Okay.
Their next meeting is when is their next meeting? It's in June, but I won't be able to attend it. But I can listen to the recording if you like and give a report at
Okay,
our
that'd be
July
great.
meeting.
All right, next item is 4th of July parade. We're in, right? We're gonna do that.
I gotta work.
I know you gotta work, you know. But we thought we'd the VW's not available, right? So we'll use the Leaf or something like that and just decorate it.
Use the what?
The Leaf,
The electric car.
the electric car.
Oh.
Or the van, but I mean the Leaf
Van.
kind of makes sense. It's
The
electric.
Leaf makes a lot of
Makes
sense.
a lot
Right?
of sense.
Yeah,
The
the
electric car.
the van's not really parade worthy yet. I don't. Just
The
saying.
work van.
Just saying.
So
my goodness.
we thought again we'd open that up to. In fact, a couple of volunteers have already asked if they could come and be.
Did we
part
complete
of
the
parade.
paperwork on that?
No, I have to get that into Karen. I'll do it tonight.
Or you could send it to me to complete, like I did last year.
I
Yeah.
may even have it in my.
if Jill did it last year, she could do that.
Yeah.
Because you just.
Well, the reason we held off on it is because we didn't officially agree to do it. So-
Oh, I thought we had.
Okay, so we're definitely doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
No objections?
Everybody good with participating? Great.
When is it this year?
It's Wednesday, July. You're so funny. It's a Wednesday.
I think it's on the 4th, Ed.
Where do we meet? Are we when we wouldn't
St.
be
Al's.
meeting at?
St. Al's.
No, but I mean we met at John's house
Right.
and then went to St. Al's. Are we doing that this year?
You
No.
want? Yeah, sure.
Well,
Coffee and donuts.
Okay.
No.
What day is that?
we put all the decorations.
The 5th.
Yeah.
I'll crawl underneath the bus and see if I can get it moving. I'll give you only a 10% chance on that one, though. It's got some major problems.
Okay. But yeah, so
All right.
we could decorate it up. Okay, great. Okay, next on the agenda is new project considerations.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, we've considered new projects. I think we have a lot on our plate. There's a lot of really great ideas that possibly could come forward. I think we have some trouble, maybe not trouble, but we have a full workload with everything that we have right now, and I think if there's any new projects that come up, we have to really think about it. One of our volunteers has asked me personally to help. On the east side, there's a condominium complex that she's been speaking with the owners and the superintendents of, and it's a large complex that has 300 units, and it has a nice community activist in that building, and they would really like to have a native planting and maybe engage the kids, or maybe have them completely do it on their own, and so basically make it. They're asking for advice and help, and a project like this. I mean, I know it's a little bit more work, but theoretically, if it works out like it did with St. Al's or Tully Park, where we're sort of just consultants and we just come in and help a little bit and give advice, and then they do a lot of the work themselves, then we're not then we're not burdened with the extra work, because it's not just taking out a patch of grass and throwing out some seed and then you're done. There's so much work that goes into it, and I don't want to create any more work, but
Well, I think that's the problem, is the management of it after
Yeah.
it's done and doing that right. But
Yeah, I would think unless there's a real strong commitment from the complex to, the project and the ability to maintain it and the commitment to maintain it.
you might need like a committee from the complex who would bird dog this and take
Right.
it, so to help
Maybe
out with
just
that
a
management part.
conversation. Maybe just a conversation with them. I just think of how many people in that many units, and how many children, and I'm
Great.
always thinking about kids, right? And they don't have that there, so it's like they have a playground and a nice natural area right next to the playground.
Well,
how
maybe
much
that volunteer
exposure,
would volunteer to be the point person on that.
that would be really great. So I guess I just I want your opinion about that. If we should just for conversation with.
I don't think there's any harm in talking to them about
Yeah.
it,
Explore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I would hesitate to commit us to anything else.
Well, as long as our participation is advisory in its capacity, or just, again, as more of consultants, that would be wonderful. And that's a great way to expand our outreach without having to take on these projects that we just really can't.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so
So I'll
have the conversation.
Have the
have a
conversation.
conversation. If anybody wants to come and have the conversation with me, then
When would you be going?
we can set up a time. Just going to talk to whoever that is over there, the superintendent, just feeling it out and seeing what they have in plan, and either it's it doesn't seem plausible or it does.
Make sure that everybody's on board. We don't want to get
Yeah.
into something.
Yeah, I don't want to be
Where
out
it's
there.
10 people who think it's great and 290 who are like,
And
yeah.
then I'm taking a few days off of work. right? That's true too. Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But I just think, for the future too, it's just there's so many wonderful ideas. We just don't want to get into it's nice not to ask for permission, but to have someone come to you for.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Next is the meeting locations.
Okay, next location is Heron Pond at that picnic table in the back.
Do we agree on that, or are you just saying that part?
I just said that.
So if anybody
It's a
agrees,
Well, I think it's a in idea. That's
Well-
July.
Yeah.
Something.
Where is
it's a
that
license.
picnic table?
it's not at Heron Pond. It's in Walnut
In
Woods.
Walnut Woods.
Oh, in Walnut
Yeah,
Woods.
it's in Walnut Woods.
It's in Walnut Woods.
So we
It's in the-
access it off of Wheeling Road?
Yeah,
Yes.
you park in the gravel lot there on Wheeling Road, and then just walk back in.
It's
And it ought to be just loaded with fireflies by that time, so it could be
Ticks and
a,
mosquitoes.
a magical meeting.
magical meeting.
And we'll leave it at that. There's no need to set any other
Right.
location.
Yeah.
All right. So visitor comments.
We
Peter,
had them first.
I make the motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
What
Aye.
time do
Aye.
you have, Ed?